Welcome to the Transform Your Wedding podcast, a how-to guide for taking your wedding to a whole new level. Here's your host, Marie Kubin from Rent My Wedding.
Hey everyone, today we're talking all about South Asian wedding decor. I'll be chatting with Shushil, the owner of Utopian Events based in Atlanta, Georgia. Hey Shushil, well thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, well I can't wait to hear all of your insights about South Asian wedding decor.
Okay, great. What would you like to know?
Well, why don't you start by giving us kind of an overview? What are all the key elements of South Asian wedding decor?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm Shushil Patel with the company called Utopian Events. We've been around for about 18 years now, and we specialize in South Asian weddings, but we also do other type of weddings as well. Uh, Indian weddings, as you know, are quite long in terms of duration of days. There's, the weekend basically begins with the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And amongst those 3 days, there's going to be several different events that are happening during the duration of those events. And they're colorful, they're magical, the food is there, everyone's dressed in different garments. And then, of course, the decor, which is where we come in, each event will denote a different type of decor. So your Thursday, Friday evening events will be a little bit more colorful for the Mendi or the Sangeet. Normally the Mendi's on a Thursday night, where the bride has her hands painted with henna, and her other guests will also be, lady friends will also have that done as well. That's normally at a home, a family home, or in a hotel ballroom, but it's predominantly like a smaller group of people that come to that event, followed by dinner, light snacks, things like that nature. Sometimes there's a bar. And then, of course, Friday morning is their home occasions where they get the aldi, which is that yellow paste that is either applied to their hands and entire body. That also will have a different set of decor, something more traditional. And it can get a little messy because of that paste. So we have to be careful with some of the seating and things like that. Again, that's followed by a lunch, a very traditional lunch. And then we go into Friday evening, which is either the Garba or the Sangeet. And that has extremely colorful decor. It's probably one of my favorite events to design because we get to work with the myriad of different fabrics and textiles. And it's a very nice event that we can kind of design. Again, there's a bar, there's dancing, there's different types of decor, there's food stalls, there's colorful linens, there are pillows and all these different kind of fun elements. And then, of course, we have Saturday morning, which is the wedding ceremony. And of course, that has very traditional decor, or it could have a contemporary flair to it. Followed by the full-blown reception, which is the wedding banquet. And that normally has very contemporary or more neutral tones to it. You won't see a bunch of color at that last event. So I kind of walked you through like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning, Saturday night event. And then, of course, depending on the family and the overall investment, they obviously will have other events starting as early as Tuesday or Wednesday. But on a majority, they do have these events start on Thursday or Friday night.
Okay, awesome. That is such a great overview to give everyone kind of that quick look at the South Asian kind of wedding timeline. And let's talk a little bit more about the ceremony itself. What are some of the key decor elements when it comes to the ceremony? I know the focal point is always the manda. Am I right?
Yes. The
Okay.
mandap is the altar, also known as a glorified hapa. A lot of the Jewish clients use the hapa as their ceremony location, and the mandap is normally consists of four pillars in a square, round, either a trapezoidal shape. Recently, we've been doing a lot of trapezoidal shapes where the front two pillars are wider than the rear two pillars. So that way everyone can kind of see the ceremony while this is happening. And that front bridge is almost 14 feet wide. Most mandaps are 12 by 12 in a square, but a lot of a lot of our past brides have been really selecting that trapezoidal shape because it certainly helps for no obstruction. Um, that's the main thing. And then, of course, we have tall pipe and drape immediately behind the mandap. All the elements for the wedding ceremony are included within the mandap. The bridegroom get two large chairs, bridesmaids, groomsmen, and the mother and father, or whoever's conducting the wedding ceremony, from the bridal maternal side of view, gets smaller chairs. There's a fire pit. There's some small stools. Uh, there's two garlands, which are called jaymalas, and that's when the bride and groom exchange the leis, which are like the Hawaii leis, so to speak. And if we step off the actual mandap stage, there's an aisleway, which normally consists of pedestals. Uh, Recently, or more modernly, I should say, brides now have raised platforms, or also known as a catwalk, where they kind of walk down the aisle. It's elevated, an elevated stage, for lack of a better word. And we normally adorn the stage, that elevated aisle, with lots of cylinder glass and rose petals. That's normally inside the ballroom where the wedding takes place. And then outside in the pre-function area is a Ganesh table, which is a Hindu god. And he is the remover of all obstacles. He's extremely revered in the Hindu religion. And then there's also a gate, which is where the bride's family receives the groom's family. So a lot of elements that are part of the Indian wedding ceremony that are part of, exactly a part of the actual wedding ceremony. Sometimes the bride would like to be carried in a palanquin, which is a kind of a like a how do we call this, I don't want to say a container, but it's a platform, for lack of a better word, where the bride sits in, and her brothers or maternal uncles will actually hoist up and kind of have her walk in. It's kind of a neat object. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. And so when it comes to the reception, I know you were saying that's a little bit more modern and not as traditional. What are some of the key elements for the reception decor?
So key elements in a reception decor are very common with your more non-traditional events, or Caucasian or African American events, or Black weddings. And there's a stage, correct, which is where the bride and groom will normally sit on and hear their speeches. And then there's also a dance floor. There's estate tables, which are those long VIP tables where immediate family and friends or the bridal party will sit on. Regular round tables. Recently, we've been using a lot of farmhouse tables, square tables, rectangular tables like we discussed with the estate tables, and of course, round tables. And centerpieces, right? Like lots of tall centerpieces for floral, lots of candles, charger plates, napkins, specialty linens are a must at these events. And I mentioned that bride and groom sit on a stage, but there's also like a backdrop or some sort of a focal point behind them, where, as the cinematographer and the photographer, which of course are a very important vendor in this on this particular day when they're panning the room, the bride and groom have something pretty behind them. So all their pictures and video will turn out nicely.
Yeah, definitely. That's always one of my favorite shots from an Indian wedding reception, is where the bride and groom are on this amazing looking little couch or love seat, and there's a beautiful backdrop behind them. I think that's one of the just most beautiful shots of the whole reception.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yep, they're very typical in Indian weddings.
Now, when it comes to kind of crossover weddings, I think a lot of things that we see is that traditions or decorations in one culture often get carried over to another. So, have you seen, anything that maybe started off as an Indian wedding tradition and now it's showing up in, all different cultures for weddings?
No, that's a good question. We uh, strategically kept the name of the company Utopian Events because we did not want to do an Indian or ethnic name. We wanted to help all kinds of people. So we do help a lot of traditional weddings, Black weddings, and we love them all. They're all very nice clients. Recently, we have also been selected to do a lot of gay weddings, and that's also something that we're excited to be a part of. As far as the cross-cultural elements, I see a lot of, and this may be more of a concept, but there is in a reception a dance floor. Well, sometimes dance floors can be placed rectangularly or at an oblique or a square. But in a lot of Indian weddings, we place them at an oblique or as a diamond shape, and then we flank the estate tables on either side. So that concept has been assimilated with a lot of our non-Indian events, which is kind of a neat thing. The backdrop, which is normally something that a non-Indian client will select, but we tell them, clients, and say, hey, this is where your first dance may be, or this is where, you could be seated during your speeches. And during that time, when somebody pans or takes pictures, at least you have a beautiful focal in the room that is obviously evident in your pictures and your photos. As far as like colorful linens and, typical Sangeet colors like, magenta and lime green, we don't see some of that in our traditional weddings, and we don't propose that as well. But backdrops, estate table concepts are pretty common, and we're very good at accommodating those requests with our traditional clients.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And, we see too with our clients, one thing that I'm curious how it originated, but I always tend to think it came really from maybe the Jewish weddings or the Indian weddings, but we're seeing canopies being used kind of across the board now for wedding ceremonies, which I think is such a beautiful concept. So instead of just your, basic altar, now all couples of all cultures are kind of choosing to have this four-posted type of covering. And that's one of my favorite decor elements for ceremonies. I think it just gives such a beautiful look and makes for that focal point to really frame the vows.
It does. You're correct. It does.
Yeah. So any other decor tips that you'd like to share with our watchers and listeners?
I think decor is very personal. Brides and grooms these days, they have a lifestyle, and their homes are designed this way. And I think if they extrapolate that into their wedding decor and their personalities, I think that's the best way for them to start designing their concepts and their wedding storyboards. If you're a modern person, and that doesn't mean that you would get like a traditional, for lack of a better word, very colorful pillar as your munda pillar, but you can opt to do something acrylic or mirrored, something to that effect that will kind of represent your style. The other thing that is really critical to assess is what the bride and groom want to spend their focus on. When they come to decor, decor is very subjective. So their overall investment will really depend on what they want to spend, of course, and then it will also affect how the overall room will look like. Number of guests obviously take into account with that. A lot of our clients these days are having COVID-friendly events, so the smaller the event will help in their reception cost, but not necessarily with their wedding altar cost. And I say that because you're still having a wedding decor, like your wedding ceremony decor. If you're having it for 500 guests or you're having it for 50 guests, you're still selecting those same elements. So the price necessarily will not go down on those things because your concept is still the same. But for the reception, 500 guests versus 50 guests, I mean, that's 45 less tables that somebody's investing in. So investment is really important, and they just need to stick to that investment, but know that the lesser the investment will also determine how that room may look.
Definitely. Yeah, I think those are some great tips. And tell us a little bit more about yourself and your company.
So I started the company 17 or 18 years ago. I can't remember because it's been a while now, but I was pretty successful in the customer service realms of all my jobs, and I just felt a void in quality Indian wedding decor in Atlanta. We have some great vendors here, and obviously there's different tiers for different people, and customer service is something that I'm really, really keen on, and our goal is obviously to make everyone really happy. Utopian Events started with a wedding reception. I still remember the client and the client's name and where it was. And since then, we provide hundreds of decor for families. My favorite is when we get to help siblings of past clients that we have done, or cousins, and you just become family to that particular nuclear family, and you feel really welcome, and it's just a really good feeling to help someone where you've helped their previous family members and friends.
Definitely, and probably the ultimate compliment as well when you're having people come back for everyone in their family who wants to use you as well. So
it's a nice feeling, yes.
Yeah, and tell us how everyone can get in touch with you.
Oh yeah, social media. We have an Instagram page, Utopian_events, or they can call 678-570-4443. That's our cell number, or they can email us at Shushil, SHUSHIL, at Utopian Event, UTOPIAN event, no S, EVENT.com.
Awesome. Well, Shushil, thank you so much for joining me. It was great chatting with you.
Likewise, thank you for having us.
Well, I hope you enjoyed learning all about South Asian wedding decor. And don't forget, you can catch all of our podcast episodes over at transformyourwedding.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Rent My Wedding, your one-stop shop for event rentals. Order online and rentals are delivered right to your door. Shipping is free both ways nationwide. Rent lighting, backdrops, photo booths, and more. With the most 5-star reviews in the industry, Rent My Wedding makes rentals easy and affordable. Book your rentals today at www.rentmywedding.com.